Hey everyone, 𝗃𝗂𝗃𝗀𝗃 here, and welcome back to this 3-part video series talking about what I want to see in the next installment of Mario Kart. If you haven't already, I highly recommend making sure that you've seen the first part of this series before watching this one, as some of the ideas and concepts that I'm going to be talking about will be connected to stuff in the previous video. So I recommend doing that so that all my ideas blend together nicely. But if you're already set to go, let's drive off into some more of my ideas for the next Mario Kart game. So for this one, we're going to tackle a major category that I didn't cover in the first part, and that would be one of the biggest elements of any Mario Kart game, the playable driver characters. In my last video, I imagined the playable characters as a big part of my vision for a story mode, having that be the main method of unlocking characters. But in this ideal Mario Kart game of mine, I would imagine the game having multiple methods of unlocking characters and other things such as vehicle parts. You could unlock them by playing the story mode, but there's other methods, such as completing specific requirements in other modes, or slowly unlocking stuff over time at random while playing the regular races, whether they be offline or online. Just definitely, I hope the method of unlocking characters is nothing like a certain mobile game that I would prefer not to name just yet. But you didn't come to hear me talk about how you should unlock characters in a new Mario Kart game. You came to hear my specific thoughts on what potential new characters could be in this next game and what characters should be in it. Now, Mario Kart isn't necessarily heavily focused around characters as much as games like Super Smash Bros., but despite that, I still have a lot to say about this area because I feel that the roster for the next Mario Kart game could be so much more than the pretty unremarkable rosters of the past. Vanilla Mario Kart 8 was infamous for having a pretty underwhelming roster. Sure, it had most of the standard characters and added some pretty cool additions in the form of the DLC crossover ones, but honestly, the overall roster was pretty weak, and not the ideal roster for a Mario Kart game, in my eyes at least. And this is because there was so much unnecessary fluff, and still a lot of missing favorites as well. So to outline my own ideal roster for the next Mario Kart game, I'm going to go through all the characters throughout the franchise's history and give my own take as to whether they should return, be revamped in some way, and or otherwise. And of course, we will also take a look at potential new characters that they could add into this next installment. So firstly, let's start out with the veterans who will obviously return, and in my eyes, pretty much deserve their immortal roster spots in Mario Kart. We have the original OGs since the first game, being Mario, Luigi, Peach, Yoshi, Bowser, 𝗃𝗏𝗃, and Toad. Guaranteed returning characters. Other no-brainer veterans who are safe, or should be in my eyes, are Daisy, Rosalina, Warrior, Waluigi, Donkey Kong, Toadette, and King Boo. Fairly safe character picks who have a lot of fans and make really good sense to return for the next game. But now let's talk about some veteran drivers who weren't in the last mainline Mario Kart game that should return for this installment. These characters are Diddy Kong, Birdo, Petey Piranha, and Funky Kong. Diddy and Birdo are pretty self-explanatory, as they are fan-favorite unique characters that honestly had no reason to go MIA from the series, so they should return in this next big game. Petey Piranha is a wacky and crazy character, but one that I always enjoyed seeing in the spin-off Mario games. I'm not dying for Petey's return, but I totally would welcome him or her back. It'd be better than just adding a regular Piranha Plant to the roster. Looking at you, Smash Ultimate. Now, Funky Kong is probably the one that will be mixed among people, as we all know how broken he was in Mario Kart Wii. But they could simply nerf his stats, and he also won't be too broken thanks to the vehicle customization system. Or maybe that'll make him worse, who knows. He's just a really hilarious character to me, and I think that if you're going to build an ultimate Mario Kart roster, you have to include him. While Nintendo has kind of strayed away from them over the years, I do think that the Mii racers will return as playable characters in this game as well. And I'm not particularly for the Miis or against them, I just think they will return in this next game regardless of how I feel. Next up are some characters that I have mixed feelings with when it comes to their potential return. And this may ruffle some feathers with some of you. These characters are Lakitu, Baby Mario, Baby Luigi, Dry Bones, and Wiggler. Lakitu has always been a weird character in my eyes, since he already has a major role in the game as the referee anyway. I honestly don't think him getting cut would hurt anyone's feelings. This is also how I feel about Wiggler, as he's just one of those random Mario enemies who barely even fits in the cart. Dry Bones, I'm aware that he has his fans, but I don't know, he just isn't necessary in my opinion. But lastly for this category, the Baby Mario Brothers, a set of characters who are a little more debatable. Now I'm going to elaborate on this more for obvious reasons later, but I've always disliked the baby characters being playable. Like, why are literal babies driving race cars and speeding around in these dangerous terrains? Where are their parents? And of all the possible ideas for new characters, why the literal past versions of Mario and Luigi? It's like how I feel with Sega trying to make classic Sonic his own character and throwing him in all the modern Sonic games. It's annoying. But I can kind of understand why they include these characters, as the baby versions of the Mario Bros have been prominent characters in many games, such as some of the Yoshi's Island games or Mario and Luigi Partners in Time. Plus, it's kind of funny seeing these small children just risking it all in the crazy wacky death race fun that is Mario Kart. But despite all of that, I'm going to be ballsy and say that if it were up to me, I would personally axe them, with almost no regrets. But I think they're just so well established in the Mario Kart series at this point that they will return in the actual next installment, regardless of how I feel. Okay, so these next few characters are the real problems. The characters that in my eyes do not fit with my vision for the ultimate Mario Kart game roster, thus are the characters that I would cut with no questions, and I would not miss them at all. Well, most of them anyway. First up on the chopping block is a pretty random set of characters in the form of 𝗂𝗶𝗱𝗄, Honey Queen, and Dry Bowser. The 𝗂𝗶𝗱𝗄 is pretty much just a Koopa with wings. There's no real reason to give this character a whole character spot in my eyes, and I almost feel the same way for Dry Bowser, which is basically just an undead version of Bowser. Yet he's appeared in so many games. Like, Dry Bowser is definitely very cool looking with a dope design, but I don't feel that he has to return. I wouldn't mind if these characters were just bonus skins or extra characters that get added with DLC packs, but otherwise I personally do not care about them. Honey Queen needs almost no explanation, as she's already infamous for being one of the most bizarre and stupid character inclusions ever put into any kind of Mario Kart game. I have nothing else to say about her. Next up is a very common debate topic in the Mario Kart community, and that is the 7 Koopalings. Mario Kart 8 featured all 7 of the Koopalings as a part of the roster, and while it was really cool to play as each individual Koopaling for the first time ever, they took up way too much space of the roster. And it didn't help that the Koopalings were kind of getting tiring by that point due to their inclusion in so many other different games. So people have voted to have them cut to make room for better characters, and I would agree. But I think a potential solution to this would be downgrading the Koopalings from full-fledged playable characters with their own spots to simply skins for Bowser Jr., in a very similar way to how they're playable in Super Smash Bros. 4 and Smash Ultimate. Simply have a drop-down menu similar to the one that was used to pick the alternate colors for Yoshi and Shy Guy, and from there, you can pick whatever Koopa Kid you want. And of course, Bowser Jr. has to return to make this all work, which I do think he should anyway. Seems like a nice compromise to me, but a hurdle to this is that we don't know if doing this would be as simple as it is in Smash. So if the 𝗂𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 have to be cut to make room for other characters, I would make the sacrifice for sure. But if my idea is an option, I would prefer that. Okay, back to characters that I would cut down without hesitation. The rest of the baby characters, being Baby Peach, Baby Daisy, and Baby Rosalina. Now, I can kind of understand Baby Peach, as like with Baby Mario and Baby Luigi, she's been in quite a few other Mario games throughout the series' history. But Baby Daisy and Baby Rosalina? Not only do they stretch this whole baby version of Mario characters idea way too far, but these are characters that literally do not exist in any other games. They were created solely to fill up space in the Mario Kart rosters, and Baby Rosalina is especially bad because it contradicts her whole tragic past thing for Mario Galaxy. So yeah, I would cut the rest of these baby characters out with no questions. The same goes for the medal and power-up variants of characters, and by characters I mean specifically Mario and Peach. This being Medal Mario, Gold Mario, Mother freaking Pink Gold Peach, Tanuki Mario, and Cat Peach. No, just no with these guys. These characters have literally zero reason to get their own character spots again, and basically just need to be unlockable costumes with slight stat differences or something. Like, make them also only available in a drop-down menu as opposed to being in a full spot as if they're actually new and original characters. Some have argued that their weights play a big part in their inclusions and why they're counted as whole different characters, but simply just bring in new characters to fill in those weight classes. These guys make Echo Fighters look entirely original. Get them out of here. And that covers almost all the veterans throughout Mario Kart history. But there's a specific bunch of characters that I left out of the fold. This being the crossover Nintendo characters, Link, Villager, Inkling, and Rob, who was in Mario Kart DS. This is going to be a bit controversial, but I would personally cut these characters. As you guys remember, I want this Mario Kart game to stay within the boundaries of the Mario universe and push it to its limits. And because of this, the crossover characters from other series have to leave by default. However, this is only for the base roster. For the DLC, I totally wouldn't mind if it returned to bringing in other Nintendo worlds and even ramps it up to really hype people on the idea of a big Nintendo crossover racing game, which I'm sure will happen one of these days anyway. The DLC can bring back all the formerly mentioned crossover characters, plus a few new crossover characters as well. And if I had to choose some characters that could be cool additions to Mario Kart, two Nintendo ones that come to mind are Captain Falcon and Kirby. Captain Falcon would be an interesting pick as he could return to the game with his F-Zero themed Mario Kart tracks from Mario Kart 8, and his signature vehicle, the Blue Falcon. Hey, if F-Zero isn't going to get a new game in a long while, might as well let him have his fun in Mario Kart. The only hurdle of this is that Falcon is a very realistic proportion to human, and he might stand out badly in Mario Kart. Then again, we also have Link out here driving around, so it's not too crazy. Kirby wouldn't be as wild though, as he'd fit right in and could come into the game with his own vehicle inspired by the Warp Star. And of course, the main element that would make his inclusion great is that he could bring in some really cool Kirby themed race courses as well. I'll touch on that in the next video. My last potential idea for a crossover DLC character is probably one of the craziest character picks yet. But it would be a cool nod to the arcade Mario Kart games. Pac-Man and other characters from his series making their mainline Mario Kart debut. It's definitely a stretch due to it bringing third parties into the mix, but Namco does have a good relationship with Nintendo, and the fact that Pac-Man was in any Mario Kart game makes it at least possible. Alright, so we fully covered the subject of returning veteran characters, and we also tackled some ideas for some potential DLC characters, in the form of the crossover ones. But now let's switch full gears into tackling Mario Universe newcomers that could slide into this game, whether it be for the base roster or DLC. Kamek is a magic Koopa who acts as a big recurring bad guy throughout the Mario series, being one of Bowser's most loyal subjects, and with a role that big, I'm honestly surprised he hasn't debated in a Mario Kart game any sooner. He was originally planned for Mario Kart 64, but he ended up cut and replaced with Donkey Kong. And for that, I think it definitely makes sense to introduce him as a new character by this point, since he is a pretty consistent antagonist throughout Mario history. Boom Boom and Pom Pom are a pair of enemies from old and recent Mario games who usually act as mini-bosses. While they definitely aren't my ideal choice for new characters, I wouldn't mind seeing them maybe share a spot together, since they're unique enough recurring baddies too. Nabbit is a character who has appeared in quite a few games by now, and has most prominently had a role in New Super Mario Bros. U and its DLC. He's a weird character, but he's always been one I've liked, and I think he can work well as a new driver in Mario Kart. Okay, these are some big ones. Characters from the latest big 3D Mario game, Super Mario Odyssey. And the big ones that come to mind are Cappy and Pauline. Pauline most definitely deserves a spot on the roster, and she's even technically already made her Mario Kart debut with Mario Kart Tour, so it's very likely she could get in. Cappy is one that might seem weird to people at first since he acts as Mario's hat for most of the game, but he could simply drive in his little ghost form and could be a cool lightweight character to replace one of those useless baby characters with. I also considered the Broodals from Mario Odyssey, but I honestly think that they would work better as bosses or mini-bosses for the story mode I talked about in part 1. But a character who should be playable in this game, and has needed to be playable in some Mario spin-off for years now, is Professor Egad. And I'm not kidding. I know that it might seem bizarre to have this old scientist guy participate in these races, but he's always been one of the most interesting Mario characters, and he could be very fun to play as. Hey, if all these babies can drive around, old people should be able to too. At the very least, give him a minor role in the story mode or something. I personally don't think we see this guy enough in any other form, so having him be in Mario Kart in really any way would be appreciated. That's it for some of my more safe ideas for new characters, but I have a few crazier ideas to throw out there. So, one of my biggest problems with Mario spin-offs as a whole is that they don't pull from all corners of the Mario universe when it comes to choosing characters to feature in their game roles, whether it be playable, non-playable, or otherwise. If you really want to make this next Mario Kart crazy and unique, there are so many other characters you could choose from than just yet another baby character or metal-coated version of an existing playable character. And I've seen some arguments for why Mario spin-offs do this, but honestly they're dumb. Like, I get that some of these spin-off characters appeal to a more niche crowd, but putting them in bigger Mario games like Mario Kart could be a good way to make them less niche in the first place, which is exactly why I will keep pushing for them no matter how bizarre they sound. So what I'm going to do is briefly name some additional characters from the extended Mario universe that could also be pretty cool to feature in a Mario Kart game, or really, any Mario spin-off. Since we already have characters from the Donkey Kong universe, why not slip in a few more in there? The major ones that come to mind are Dixie Kong, Cranky Kong, Tiny Kong, or even King K. Rool. King K. Rool would be extremely hype, and his recent comeback in Smash Ultimate can attest for the love that people have for the character. And it's not like he's never been in a Mario spin-off either. How about characters from the WarioWare games, such as Mona, Jimmy T, Ashley, and many others? There are a lot of fun and quirky characters from that world who should really be in more games, and Mario Kart could be a perfect place for them to shine more. If you want some real bizarre nostalgia curveballs, you could throw in some really obscure characters such as Captain Syrup from the Warrior Land games, or Warp from Super Mario Bros. 2, Mario antagonists who have been lost to time. I honestly would rather see them make a big return in their respective series first, but seeing them in any new full-fledged appearance would be pretty cool. But easily, one of the most hype possible inclusions would be any sort of characters from the RPG Mario games. The Mario RPGs have been disrespected for so long now, and recent years haven't helped much. Including a beloved Mario RPG character in a big spin-off like Mario Kart could be a good way to get on good footing with that crowd again. Some potential candidates could be popular villains like 𝗵𝗲𝗄 or 𝗕𝗵𝗫𝗀, or even one of the many partner characters from the first two Paper Mario games. I would suggest Geno and Mallow from Super Mario RPG here, but we already know the deal with them. They're owned by Square, so they are not too likely at all. But there was a time where Nintendo worked with Square really closely and featured some of their characters in Mario spin-offs, such as in Mario Hoops or Mario Sports Mix. So I remain hopeful that they could return one of these days. Eventually. Okay, but we're not done yet. I have one more crazy idea for a potential surprise gag character, and that character would be Donkey Kong Jr. Now look, I get it. He makes almost no sense to bring back, and would be weird considering that he was ultimately replaced by Donkey Kong in Mario Kart, and replaced by Diddy Kong as a whole. And it would be slightly hypocritical if you think about some of my last few arguments. But I think it would be a neat throwback to the original Super Mario Kart to bring back the last veteran from that game. He just makes so much... Okay, I'm just kidding. We don't need Donkey Kong Jr. Get that out of here. All jokes aside, before we end this part off, let's cover a few small changes to the veteran characters. With Yoshi and Shy Guy, I would be happy if their color palette options from Mario Kart 8's DLC would return. However, one thing that I would like to see is the color palette and alternate costume drop-down menu now applying to more characters. I already explored this idea with Bowser Jr. and the Koopalings, but there's a lot more potential with other characters. For example, what about alternate color variants for Toad, since there's so many different colors of Toad? Or alternate shell colors for Koopa, or just more alternate outfits as a whole? What if while riding bikes, Wario wore his bike attire from the WarioWare games? Small little quality of life changes like that could add a whole new layer of detail to the game and would be a nice new level of customization. The most recent installment, Mario Kart Tour, even plays around with this idea by having some neat alternate costumes for some of the characters. The only gripe being that they're hard to actually obtain due to Mario Kart Tour's broken gacha system. Lord have mercy, I pray that Mario Kart 9 only takes some ideas from Mario Kart Tour, and not all of them, especially anything relating to its trash microtransaction system. Rant on that mobile game aside, again, having new options like these for the characters would be really cool, though I don't see all of this being 100% necessary, especially if we do get a really good and decently sized base roster, but it's still fun to suggest. I just hope they don't count alternate costumes or alternate versions of existing characters as full new and original characters. Alright, and that about covers everything when it comes to the potential characters for this next Mario Kart game. I know that there were some areas left that I probably could have touched, such as the potential boss characters within the story mode and all that, but I think stuff like that speaks for itself. And hey, maybe you guys have your own ideas and thoughts that you could share in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and spread it around to help get it more traction. I don't monetize my videos, but seeing my videos do well in views and all that stuff really motivates me to keep on making videos like this one. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, to make sure that you get the final part of this video series straight to your sub box, if YouTube doesn't misplace it. This has been Nux, and I'm out. Peace.